All right, everybody, welcome back to the AFC Northcast. This is the final episode for the preseason. That's right, finally the preseason is over and regular season football is here. So if you're listening to us after the fact, we are doing this episode live Tuesday, 9:30. However, we will be doing another episode live Thursday, probably 9:30. I guess we should have talked about that. But 9:30 seems to be when we're doing these things. So twice a week, we're going to be doing episodes at 9:30 at night, streaming on Twitch, YouTube, and on Facebook. And of course, if you can't catch us live at 9:30 Eastern, then catch us, through wherever you get podcasts from. Check us out. The first episode that we'll be doing throughout the week, the Tuesday episode, will generally be a review episode of all the games that happened in the past week. And the Thursday episode is going to be our preview episode, talking about all the games that are going to be coming up. So look out for that. Have fun with us. Come watch us live. It'll be good times. Interact. Send us messages. Tell us how much you think we suck. Whatever it is. We'll tell you what we fucking think about that. And, yeah. So this episode, we're just going to do kind of a little quicker episode than we have been doing for the preseason, which the fact that we've been getting as much time out of the preseason episodes as we have is pretty flabbergasting. But, so today on this episode, we're just going to talk about the final rosters, because the 53-man rosters are all done. And then we're going to be going through each of the team's schedules, giving our personal opinions on wins and losses. And then, the other guys are going to talk about different games that they think might be a little contentious or give a little bit of input on where they might disagree. So that's what y'all are getting into. So with that, how's everybody doing? You guys ready? You guys good?
Steelers present, ready to go.
Yeah, ready to roll out.
Yeah, that's right. Ravens present and accounted for.
Mm-hmm.
So ready for the regular season. Tonight's the finale of Hard Knocks. I have not been spoiled on any guys that got cut by the Raiders, because who the fuck gets Raiders notifications? Not this guy.
I got a spoil. I got one.
Did you?
Yeah, I won't say anything. No. I won't do it.
I mean, cuts are basically the main reason why some people watch Hard Knocks, even those last episode or whatever. People talk about how excruciating it is to watch, but also how enjoyable it is to watch at the same time.
I have to admit, I was bummed. It snuck up on me. I was disappointed to get this.
Oh, don't even. You're already giving too much away.
Oh no!
It's like when someone hasn't seen Endgame yet and be like, "Dude, the ending, you're just gonna be so sad." It's just like, why the fuck would you even say that?
The Avengers won.
Yeah, right. All right, cool. So let's get kicking right into the 53-man rosters. So, Chad, why don't you start us off with the Steelers?
Oh, you want to do the Steelers first?
Yeah, let's
get rolling. I did not realize that we would start with the most exciting stuff. I guess I'll start with the defense and give myself a pat on the back. And you guys, the players that we were all watching, that we were excited about, all made the team. So linebackers, Ulysses Gilbert III and Tuzar Skipper both made it. If you watched the fourth preseason game, really great back and forth of awesome plays. Tuzar got 2 more sacks. They finally let him play special teams, and he made a couple tackles. Ulysses Gilbert blocked a field goal and was flying around on special teams as well. So really great stuff out of them. And, of course, Isaiah Buggs, the defensive lineman, also made the team. Don't expect to see him on the field too much this year, but great stuff out of the rookies, and we'll look forward to them going forward. And what else do I have? Not a lot. The 2 offensive linemen we talked a little bit about, Zach Banner and Fred Johnson, both made the team. The only reason I bring this up is that the Steelers get a lot of credit for wide receivers and how they find them, sometimes late in the draft. But the Steelers are really great at finding offensive linemen diamond in the rough. 5 of their 9 offensive linemen were undrafted free agents, and 3 of those are starters. Matt Filer, Ramon Foster, and Alejandro Villanueva. So these are 2 guys that could be pancaking your defensive linemen in the next couple of years.
I don't know. Did you see that Myles Garrett body issue stuff? Body issue?
Yeah, he's not going to get pancaked by anybody. But the other guys maybe a little.
Yeah, the other guys, Olivier Vernon, Sheldon Richardson, Emmanuel Ogba, whatever, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Larry Ogunjobi. I always get Ogba and Ogunjobi fucked up. See, we said that we weren't going to do this, Joey, and make me look like an asshole on my own team on the podcast, and I just fucking did it myself.
You did it to yourself.
Yep.
Yeah, and then the last kind of notable one is the one that I will not pat myself on the back for. I was pretty excited about Eli Rogers, and the Steelers only kept 5 wide receivers, and he might have been the guy that got left out to make room for Tuzar Skipper. So Eli Rogers is out there and available as far as I know right now, and he's good. He should end up on a team, I would think.
Yeah, I saw that he got cut. You kind of predicted it last week, with kind of the shift in snaps to Switzer with first team guys. Johnny Holton had a really good game, and I think he's been on the team before, and they were able to practice squad him.
Yep. Yeah.
He stood out game 4 to me. He was behind the defense. Granted, third stringers, this and that, but
yeah. A lot of my little Steelers birds actually thought that he might make the team over Eli Rogers if they kept 6, because he's been playing pretty strongly on special teams as a gunner and a little bit as a returner here and there. So it didn't happen that way. But yeah, he may have a bright future, at least on special teams, which, it's a dimmer star, but you still make plenty of money doing that business.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I think I'm going to go next, talk about the Browns. I don't really have a whole lot to say, which is why I think I'm going to take the torch. All right, so as far as the Browns roster goes, I think most people kind of knew how this was going to end up for a lot of them. The only people that we really talked about during the preseason were some of the rookies. So Mac Wilson, Taki, like those guys made it obviously, clearly. Greedy Williams is still on the roster, even though I think he had a lower than expectations preseason, but they're not going to get rid of that guy. So most of the cuts were like the wide receivers, Sheehy, Giuseppe. I think most people kind of saw that coming. Sure, it was a feel-good story, but, hey, feel-good isn't there when you're trying to make it to the Super Bowl, right? They got rid of Britton Colquitt, so we kind of talked about that a little bit. But, honestly, man, Jamie Gillian was doing really fucking well, in my opinion, as far as punters go. And they got rid of Greg Joseph. Greg Joseph, he's a free agent still, and they stuck with Siebert, which is interesting, but because he apparently had a rocky camp to start, but hey, whatever, man. Colquitt did get signed by the Vikings like almost immediately, though. So, I mean, he's a fantastic punter. He might have just been too rich. I don't really know what the situation was with him, but I think that they saw this coming, and he probably knew it was coming as well. As far as additions to the roster, they did trade for a guard. And also, if you look at their depth chart, the Browns are the only team in the AFC North that actually have a starting depth chart with 2 tight ends. They kept all 3 of the tight ends that they were talking about a lot during the preseason, Pharaoh Brown, Demetrius Harris, even though I'm not a big fan of those guys. But I think that they clearly understand that the offensive line is a serious issue moving forward and is really kind of the big place that things need to be buttoned up. So that's why they not only picked up a guard, Justin McCray, and also kept all of the tight ends that they were talking about. And those tight ends they kept were primarily blocking guys anyways. But yeah, other than that, I mean, Braxton Miller, cut, gone. Kind of expected that. Derek Willis, I didn't really expect that because they ended up keeping, what's his name? Damian Ratley, that's right. They ended up keeping Damian Ratley over Derek Willis, which we didn't even see Damian Ratley play during the preseason. I don't know. I wasn't even really looking for him, so I'll have to do some research to figure out why he didn't play during the preseason.
He was injured for a big part.
That's what I was going to say. I thought he might have been injured. Yeah. But that's interesting, too, because Derek Willis played during the preseason, and, I mean, he didn't look like fucking Odell, right? But he looked like somebody to back up a backup, but he's not on the roster. So, and again, the Browns did pick up 2 more wide receiver free agents. So, yeah. Any comments?
Interesting questions still remain on what appears to be a very strong roster. The offensive line is still a little bit in question. Mm-hmm. Two new special teams fixtures, so that will be
one's a rookie, one's a rugby player.
So you got to be excited that they earned the jobs, but at the same time a little bit nervous to start the season with 2 guys that haven't actually done it in the real environment before. Right. It'll be a trip.
Yeah, kept a lot of tight ends. However, if you're ready for it, I will tell you right now why the Browns have no chance. And that's because they have no fullbacks on their roster.
Yeah,
What are they doing?
neither do the Bengals, I think, either, but whatever.
Well, I mean, we already know.
Yeah, we
the
already know where
Bengals'
they're
expectations for the season.
Yeah.
But yeah, Colquitt going to the Vikings is interesting. Their special teams meetings must be a fucking whirlwind in training camp this year between Vedvik and now bringing Colquitt in at the end of training camp. The end of they actually cut Vedvik, who couldn't stop missing field goals. And the Jets already claimed him off waivers.
Jeez. Well, we'll see how that turns out. Yeah, I don't know. I think there was something else going on with Colquitt, and like I said, they knew it, which is when they picked him up to begin with. But I'm excited for it. I think that he'll do fine. He made some interesting tackles towards the end of the preseason as well, which was kind of cool to see. He wasn't afraid to get aggressive, even though there was some talk that the coaches were like, bro, you're a punter. Like, don't get hurt, all right? Like, it's not the same thing as rugby. The physicality is a little bit different, but I'm excited for him. I think it'll be fun. It's interesting. And plus, he's got, like, the best nickname right now in at least the AFC North, which is the Scottish Hammer. I mean, come on.
And he's got the long hair. He just seems like a guy who's like right before like third down play ends, and he like chugs an ale and like runs out onto the field to punt the ball away.
Right. It's good stuff. But yeah, so tight ends that got kept, that was kind of, it was one of those things I didn't really see them keeping all of them before the rosters kind of happened. However, once it happened, I was like, yeah, that kind of makes sense. Looks like, Njoku's going to be their premier catching tight end, although luckily he probably won't have to catch much. So with, the talent that they have and with, what he showed last season, which is interesting. Actually, that being said, they also cut Seth DeValve. I forgot I wanted to talk about him too. Seth DeValve
the Jags picked him up already.
Yep, instantly picked up, which is not that much of a surprise. He was a good blocker, but he actually ended up showing that in, the wake of Gary Barnidge, he ended up making some decent catches as well. That being said, he also made some... It's like as much as he would make a decent catch and get some good touchdowns and have some decent stats, he would also have like a wide open ball that he would just fucking bounce off of his hands. So I think that frustration, like you just get fatigue after a while, as far as owners go, and they were just looking for something else, a little bit more specialized. So yeah, Seth DeValve already picked up by the Jags, but
R.I.P. Seth DeValve.
R.I.P. All right, you want to talk about the Ravens?
Yeah. So the Ravens didn't have any big surprises. If you were looking for an answer to the left guard situation, you did not get one. The Ravens kept 9 offensive linemen. Still haven't posted an official depth chart on the website. In fact, first team left guard is just blank.
Ooh.
Nobody. Ben Powers is the second team left guard.
Right. They're like, we don't know about you, but you're sure as fuck not a starter.
On Ravens.com. So between Hurst and Powers, Bozeman, and one of the young men that is keeping the Ravens' undrafted free agent streak alive, Patrick McCarry, who had a pretty solid preseason. They've got options. I don't know if any of them are good options, but if they can just by osmosis absorb some badassery from Mr. Marshall Yanda, it'll probably serve them pretty well playing guard in the NFL. Other than that, preseason game 4 was the Jaleel Scott show, wide receiver. I think he's his second-year guy. He made some plays on special teams too. And he made the team. Apparently, Seth Roberts was the bubble wide receiver. So Seth Roberts made the team. Michael Floyd got released, much to Chad's dismay, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
Kenneth Dixon got released. We kind of talked about that last week. He actually fractured his knee preseason week 4, so he was... released injured status, which stinks.
That always
for a guy
sucks
that was
for
probably
guys.
The most purely talented runner that the Ravens had on the roster.
That always kind of sucks. And I know that I don't want to get too deep into like the weeds of issues, controversial issues in the NFL or anything. But like when you have a guy that you're bringing along all 4 weeks of the preseason and, at least has what looks to be at least a career in the NFL, and then just before the preseason fractures his knee, and like, well, now he's fucked. Like, what does he have? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a special like designation for released injured.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that involves some kind of buyout or compensation.
I would hope so.
It does.
Yeah, I would really hope so.
So especially considering like, what the Steelers have been doing for Shazier, keeping him on the roster. Like,
I think that's
as a Ravens fan,
case.
I'd hope that the Ravens wouldn't just like totally fuck this guy.
Right.
Be like, nah, sorry, dog. Rehab on your own.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's all I really had. Patrick Ricard made the team, as everybody expected him to.
So I got a question for you, because, so as you know at least already, we did our fantasy draft this week, and I mistook 8 for 9. You know how confusing those are. So I showed up late, and by the time I was ready to draft a tight end, there was like fucking nobody on the board because auto draft just didn't think you needed a tight end. So I ended up picking up as my tight end Mark Andrews. All right. Now on the Ravens roster, it shows that Nick Boyle is technically the starter, even though looking at stats, Mark Andrews has much better as far as receptions, yards, touchdowns than Nick Boyle. I mean, Mark Andrews being a rookie last year, why do you think Nick Boyle got, I guess, technically the starting spot over Mark Andrews? Or do you have any insight on that?
I don't know if that depth chart's even worth it. Like I said, there's no left guard on that depth chart at all.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much stake I'd put into that. Andrews clearly has the most rapport with Lamar Jackson. Last season and this year in the preseason, so
yeah,
I wouldn't be worried about it. Boyle's not a primary pass catcher type of guy like Andrews is, and Hayden Hurst was supposed to be, but very clearly isn't.
Yips.
So yeah, I consider Mark Andrews the top guy. People are buzzing about him being like a breakout candidate, stuff like that.
Yeah, plus his his yards after catch that one game. What was that, game 3 or whatever? He was just like dragging 3 dudes. It's like have you ever seen Little Giants when you were a kid?
Yeah.
Yeah, when that dude was like dragging 3 kids behind him and shit. I don't know, whatever. Anyways. All right, cool, man. So, Chad, you got the Bengals 53-man roster?
Yep, went and got a beer. Missed both your teams. Didn't even feel like I missed anything. I should do that every time. So basically with the Bengals, I noted one guy that had a really nice 4th preseason game. Just wanted to mention him. His name's Darius Phillips. He had an interception, and that's actually when he left the game. He also had a punt return for a touchdown. He got called back, but it was a really nice play. He had a strong game, and he made the team. And probably it was based on that performance, because right now he's their backup returner, and he's their 3rd-string quarterback. So if you want kind of a feel-good story, a long odds guy to cheer for while you're watching the Bengals, Darius Phillips is going to be that guy. Now, the Bengals did Bengal things, and they signed Pharaoh Cooper, who is a slot receiver, basically in the mold of another guy they already have, Alex Erickson. And he's a kick returner, which they already have 2 of in Alex Erickson and Darius Phillips. So hard to say exactly what's going on with that, but they're the Bengals, so we'll see how it plays out. The only other real note I had, 2 notes. Our favorite guy, Damian Willis, came out of nowhere. He's going to be starting at wide receiver. He is now number 15, not number 9. So when you're looking for a guy to cheer for, I know we're all going to be, sympathetic to him because he's another long odds guy. He's number 15 now, so that's who you're looking for on the outside. And if you're interested in roster numbers type stuff, the Bengals kept 11 defensive linemen and 4 linebackers. What the heck is that all about? They're crazy.
I don't know, man.
Committed to that pass rush.
I guess so. I mean, especially when we talked about it. I mean, I know because we're all front office GMs and football, experts. But the linebackers is somewhere that they seemed to struggle last year, right? And I don't know. Especially now that they've gotten rid of Vontaze Burfict. I mean, I don't know. But that's interesting.
Jermaine Pratt he's their rookie 3rd-round pick that I followed and didn't like at all. He's their backup at every linebacker position.
Cody Core didn't make the roster. I just noticed that.
Yeah. So Josh Malone and Cody Core were the preseason week 1 starters. Neither of them made the team.
Mm-hmm.
So
You know what's actually really funny about that is today I was scrolling through YouTube because I don't do social media anymore. So I noticed that I just scroll through YouTube now. But a video came up that was like Cody Core best catches or some shit like that. And I was like, where the fuck is this coming from? So now it's even more exciting. Or not exciting. I mean, I wish the best for the guy. But it's more, I think, funny that he didn't even make the roster. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it seems like some opinions around Cincinnati are that the Pharaoh Cooper signing means that Alex Erickson will be more involved in the offensive game plan. Pharaoh was a Pro Bowl kick returner with the Rams with Lewis.
I think it was the Falcons, wasn't it? Because I thought I heard that year that he made the Pro Bowl, he actually muffed 2 punts in the playoffs. Maybe it was against the Falcons. I don't know. Maybe I misheard that.
I thought at one point he and Tavon Young were on this.
It could be off. It didn't make sense to me. I don't care about him.
Yeah. It's relatively inconsequential, I think.
Yeah, let's just make fun of the Bengals. He's no good.
Oh, man. This is why we need somebody to represent the Bengals, guys.
Yeah.
Look, if you're a diehard Bengals fan out there, or even just a little hard Bengals fan out there, we will sympathy put you on the podcast.
Separate and in no way equal at all.
Right. Well, speaking of, let's get into the season schedules. So, who wants to start that off?
I have to do 2, so why don't I do one of them?
All right.
And we may as well start with the Bengals because I think we can all agree that they're probably going to finish last in the division. We don't have to have a big debate about that, right?
I didn't make them as bad as last year, though, surprisingly enough.
But, yeah, me neither. Okay. I typed up this pretty sweet little thing.
Nice.
I don't want you to read it.
I can't.
Surprises in here.
Yeah.
So I guess we're going game by game. I'll go pretty quick. Week 1, I have them losing at Seattle. Week 2, I have them winning versus the 49ers at home. Week 3, winning at the Bills. Week 4, losing at the Steelers. Week 5, winning versus Arizona. Week 6, losing at the Ravens. Week 7, losing versus the Jags. Week 8, losing at the Rams. Week 9, bye. Week 10, losing versus the Ravens. Week 11, winning at the Raiders. Week 12, losing Steelers. Week 13, losing Jets. Week 14, losing Browns. Week 15, losing Pats. Week 16, winning at Miami. And Week 17, too bad we're doing it first this way. And this is based on your own words, Justin, winning home versus the Browns for a record of 6-10 and a division record of 1-5.
I want to show the camera this. I changed it before the podcast started. Week 17.
This is my old one that I put. Week 17. This is the Browns.
So you have it as a
that
loss.
L.
Okay, you followed your word.
I did.
Speaking about that, so I was interested to see.
But a little bit of a different reason. So mine's actually remarkably similar to yours. Mine's 7-9. The one difference I put is I gave him a win against Baltimore coming off of the bye. I'm really not super high on Baltimore, but like it's just. You never know, man. It's so hard to like count them out because they always end up ruining someone's season or like whatever the case might be. In a pretty contentious division, I figured, you know what? Why not just throw up another W for them there? It's not one that I'm committed to. Let's just put it that way. But that like final W at the end of the what's it called? At the end of the season? Yeah, I mean, that shit's gonna fucking happen.
It might. And I did highlight 4 games. The Bengals, to me, are spoilers. So the 4 that I highlighted were versus the Bills. They're the 49ers, their home opener. You want to play well in your home opener, get your season started right. I think that's going to be a relatively evenly matched game talent-wise, maybe edging towards the 49ers a bit, but they will be at home. And then the versus the Ravens coming off the bye, I think that's kind of a season-defining game. You should have A.J. Green back. Your offensive line should be a little more cohesive by then. And then versus the Jets at home at the end of the year, you want to be peaking at that point. And this is a team that I think at that point, talent-wise, you're hopefully better than, or at least close to. And then, of course, the end of the season, close it off right against the Browns, ruin somebody's day.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you do when you're a spoiler. So those are the 4 games that I highlighted for the Bengals.
All right.
So you have 6-10.
Yeah.
For old Cincinnati.
Mm-hmm.
The only difference I had was I had them winning at Buffalo I had them losing at Buffalo.
Yeah.
That's pretty reasonable.
So I have them 5-11.
Yeah, I actually considered changing that today. That's reasonable.
Yeah, I think Buffalo's a pretty unknown right now. I really like Sean McDermott. I think he's underrated as a head coach, what he's been able to do. Justin and I were actually talking about it a little bit.
But if the Bengals line up all 11 of their defensive linemen in a punt defense formation,
just in a straight, like Red Rover,
can Josh Allen run away from all of them? I don't know.
All right. So, there's I'm going to go next, but there's one game that seriously every 5 minutes where I look at it, I change it. But that's all right. So, I'm going to stick with my original lineup that I did. But anyways, week 1, Tennessee. They're frauds. They've been frauds. They always will be frauds. And I'll continue to say that as long as this podcast goes or until they win the Super Bowl, which they'll still probably be frauds. So they're going to win against the Titans. The Jets, I'm high on the Jets, but not as high as I am on the Browns. The Rams, so that's a W. The Rams, I gave them a loss. I don't know, man. That's really tough. And the big thing that you'll see throughout this schedule is the teams that the Browns are going to lose against are the teams with strong pass rushes. Because we've already kind of noted that as a potential weakness anyways. As far as the week 4 against Baltimore, I'm going to give them a loss on that one as well because it's going to be at home in Baltimore. Again, strong pass rush. I think the team as a whole is still going to be trying to find its bearings, so there you go. Week 5 against San Francisco, easy W in my opinion, no question. I've been on the Garoppolo hater train for quite some time, and yeah, I don't believe him. He's a fraud. So they're going to win against the 49ers as well. Week 6, this is the one that's been really throwing me around back and forth, man. It's so tough because, I feel like the Seahawks are going to have a season like last season where you're going to keep counting them out, but they're going to keep getting W's. But obviously they've made improvements to their defense, to their offense. I really think is significantly lackluster. And because their offense is so lackluster, I'm giving the Browns a win, but I don't feel good about it. I'm just going to say that, okay? So, Browns have a win on week 6. Week 7 is the bye, and then this is the hot take, guys. Coming off of the bye, at New England, in Gillette Stadium, the Cleveland Browns will beat the New England Patriots, all right? This is the long stretch for the Patriots. They don't have a bye until, week 11, I think. The Browns will be just coming off of a bye. That's plenty of time to get all that tape. As long as they don't do what everybody does against the Patriots and try to overthink themselves and outthink themselves and try to in-think just every way think themselves and they just play fucking football, I think that's going to be fun. Obviously, that's a clear fucking homer pick, guys. Let me have it, all right? Let me have it. Anyways, week 9 against Denver, they're going to win that one too. Even though they do have the strong pass rush with Bradley Chubb and Von Miller, that's all Denver has. So Flacco is going to face the Browns and be like, fuck again. But anyways, Buffalo, that's a W. Against Pittsburgh, this one I put as a W because it's in Cleveland. Miami, that's a W. Week 13 against Pittsburgh, I put it a loss. You'll see with a lot of the division games, I just 50-50'd them. It's so hard to say with the division. Week 14 against Cincinnati, that's going to be a W. Arizona, easy W. Look, we're on the fraud train right now. Fucking Kyler Murray's a fraud. If you watched him at all during the preseason, the only throws he completed were 16 fucking yards out of the pocket after he rolled out so he could finally see the field. Anyways, week 16, I have a win against Baltimore because they need it for their season. And then week 17, they're going to lose to Cincinnati because either one of two reasons, depending on how it goes with the Steelers. They're either going to lose against Cincinnati to get a tied roster with the Steelers and go into some weird-ass crazy fucking tiebreaker or something like that. Or they're going to lose against Cincinnati because their season's already so good and they're going to rest some people. So there you go. That's my Cleveland Browns schedule. I have them 12-4, which I obviously think is a little bit generous. But Well, no. I honestly think it's reasonable. I honestly do think it's reasonable. But I also understand completely that there's so much unknown with the team that I don't know, man.
Yeah, otherwise they'd be 15-1, right? I mean, if you
Exactly.
knew all about the team, how could they possibly lose
I
a
mean,
game at that
how
point?
so much of this team is brand new compared to last year. I mean, let's get real. But anyways, you
So
guys can
at
go ahead and talk
12
your
and
shit.
4, I might have missed a couple when I should have been paying much closer attention to your
Mhm.
antics, obviously. So you clearly have them beating the Patriots
Yep.
at Gillette
Fuck yeah, I do.
Stadium.
Absolutely, I do.
I love your enthusiasm, Justin. Watching your heart slowly break this year is going to be truly
I've been doing it
magnificent.
for how fucking long now, man? It's all good.
And just for the record, did you have them beating the Rams at home, maybe?
No, I had them losing against the Rams.
I'm trying to find your wins that I had as losses. Oh, you probably
He
had
had
them
them beating
Seahawks.
Seattle.
The Seahawks.
Oh yeah, so I had the as my four key games, and I told you guys before we got on that I had each team going 2-2 in their key games. I had them at the Jets, at the 49ers versus Seattle, and at the Broncos. And I'm going to tell you why, Justin, just to put you in check a little bit. The Browns are establishing a winning culture right now.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have a winning culture, you go away to away stadiums to teams that you have more talent than, and you beat them. So you should not be assuming all victories in these games. It might happen if everything goes really well. But at the Jets, at the 49ers, I had versus Seattle because that's a good talent check, and at the Broncos. And they're not beating the Patriots in Gillette Stadium. I'll just tell you that right now.
Fuck yeah, they are. Somebody's got to do it. So
Yeah,
wait,
I mean,
so what
the
did you have?
things-
So at Jets, did you have them winning at Jets?
I did.
Okay.
And I had them losing versus Seattle, and I have them losing at
At what?
Denver. It's a
You have them
tougher
losing
place
at
to play
Denver?
than you think. It's a
I
tougher place
understand the
to
whole
play than you think.
mountain thing. I get that, but I don't know. I guess I don't have that much faith in Denver.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, for every single team, I picked them to go 2-2
Right.
in their key games, so they could win. I think that talent-wise, they should, but I think that when you have a new culture being established, it's very easy to leave your home stadium and not play to your potential, a la preseason week 3 when they should have been at their best. They were garbage. So we'll
They
see
better
what
get their
happens.
pass protection shit in one sock too before they go to Denver.
Yeah, that's true. What? So what was your final record for them?
I had them at 9-7, and let me just explain myself a little because my goal was to put all of our teams as the same record and then have an absurd tiebreaker that I wouldn't even predict. And I
Okay.
only had them at 9-7 because of your words, because that last loss is at the Bengals. Otherwise, our three teams would have all gone 4-2 in the division
Mm-hmm.
and been 10-6.
Oh, okay.
So a little precursor to my other team. So I think talent-wise, the expectations are very high, and they should be. Obviously, the enthusiasm is at a fever pitch, which is great for me to listen to and enjoy. We'll see. 9-7 is an improvement for you guys, for the record.
It
and
is.
I think that you are improving.
All right, Joey, what you got
Yeah.
for me?
So we differed. I have them losing against Seattle.
Right.
I just think, like Chad said, Seattle's one of those litmus teams.
Mm-hmm.
And you talked about not liking their offense, but I think that Russell Wilson is kind of a cheat code for their. He's been dragging that offense to win years now.
Yeah.
So I like Russell Wilson. Had that as a loss at New England. Had that as a loss. I mean, Baker Mayfield's a second-year quarterback. Belichick against that. And then Belichick versus Freddie Kitchens is like the biggest mismatch ever.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, I had the Pittsburgh games swapped. I had the road team winning just because it's the AFC North. Weird shit like that happens.
Mm-hmm.
And everything else we were on track with. So I had 10-6.
Yeah.
I also had the top three teams in the division very close, and I don't want to tip my hand, even though it's probably relatively predictable. I even had myself waffling on a couple games and playing around with opponents versus schedules versus like opponents because I was trying to figure out
Right.
tiebreakers.
Yeah. Same. Me too. I actually did that, but then I was doing that. I guess spoiler alert, I was doing that with the Steelers, and I was like, fuck, like, how would that even work? But then I said, nah, man, fuck that. So I gave him a W at New England and a W at Seattle, and I was like, fucking tie broken. But, so, yeah, I personally, like, fandom aside, I think something like 10-6 or 11-5 is, like, extremely doable. I think anything less than 500 is, like, a fucking shitstorm. So, but we'll see.
Yeah, you guys should be trying to win the division. You got the talent for it. You got the new coach. Everybody loves everything. You have the whole hype thing going. Honestly, I know I predicted 9-7, but you guys should stomp on the Bengals in Week 17 to prove your quality. Go 10-6 and probably win the division.
So we'll
but
see.
You're not gonna, and it's gonna be awesome to watch. It's gonna be so awesome.
Well, then tell us why, Chad.
I'll tell you why. Because you just established a winning culture, and we have to play the AFC West this year.
Okay.
And it's hard to travel across the country and win those types of games. And you're going to lose to a couple shitty teams that you're better than. And you're going to come on the podcast and try to explain it. And Joey and I are going to be like, dude, you have a rookie punter that plays rugby, and he got injured in week 4 because he leads the team in special teams tackles. How could your punter in the preseason?
Yeah.
What's he doing? What's he doing?
We talked about that while you were away getting a beer. But
so that's why.
But tell us why the Steelers are going to win the division, Chad.
I'll tell you why they're going to tie the division.
Okay.
I have them losing to the Patriots in week 1, which you'll never hear me say out loud again. I have them beating Seattle at home in week 2, losing to the 49ers at San Francisco in week 3. That's a classic Steelers loss. I shouldn't have to explain it.
Had that too.
I have them beating the Bengals at home and the Ravens at home in weeks 4 and 5. I have them losing at the Chargers.
Yeah.
But you should know they will win that game. That's the type of game the Steelers win when they shouldn't. They have a bye week in week 7. They will beat Miami at home in week 8 and the Colts at home in week 9. They will lose to the Rams at home in week 10, and they will lose at the Browns in week 11. They will beat the Bengals at the Bengals in week 12. They will beat the Browns at home in week 13. They will beat Arizona in week 14, the Bills in 15, the Jets in 16, and they will lose at the Ravens in week 17. That gives them a 10-6 record and a 4-2 division record. Although, when they beat the Chargers, that would make it 11-5. But we'll say 10-6 to try and not be especially homer.
And we are lockstep, buddy. All I had was both you and Justin have the Steelers, Browns, home teams winning. I just had away teams winning. Everything else was the same.
Man, I don't know what the big stink is about San Francisco.
It's not a San Francisco thing. It's a Pittsburgh thing.
Okay, man. Okay.
When the Chiefs had down years, the Steelers would lose to the Chiefs at home inexplicably.
Right.
San Francisco's one of the teams that every year, early in the season, the Steelers have an inexplicable loss to a cruddy team that they should beat, either sometimes at home.
Mm-hmm.
And the 49ers are one of those teams, man.
Yeah, they haven't beaten Oakland in like 42 years, and that includes all the terrible teams. It's just a thing the Steelers do. So my 4 key games were versus Seattle in week 2 at home. That's a good talent check, especially with the new addition Seattle has on defense.
I think Seattle is everybody's talent check this season, because like most of the teams that we're playing against this season, like Buffalo, Arizona, San Francisco, like now Indianapolis. Well, we're not all playing Indianapolis, but it's still like not really that great of teams. But then you got Seattle that's mixed in there. That's going to be, like you said, everyone's litmus test.
Yeah, I think at the Chargers is going to be a big game for the Steelers. They don't travel across the country very well. I don't know if it's a culture thing, if it's just it's hard to fly 3,000 miles and beat people up that are professionally going to beat you up thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the Bengals is my big one, because you got to beat one division rival away. You got to do that if you want to win the division. So to me, the Steelers beating the Bengals in their own stadium is what might potentially separate them from the Ravens and the Browns. And I think you guys should be thinking the same way about your teams. You want to go into Cincinnati and win that game.
Right.
Yeah, and it seems like the general consensus towards Pittsburgh has risen as the preseason has gone on, and people in the media are starting to hop on a little bit. I will say that in favor. I mean, I had the Steelers the same 10-6, 4-2 in the division. They have the fifth easiest projected run defense strength of schedule, and injury luck is one of those things for somebody with a gambling brain. The Steelers had pretty poor injury luck last year. So you typically see that type of thing regress, and maybe on the defensive side, they can stay a little healthier.
Yeah, I mean, they have a lot of. Their defense is very young. There's a lot left unanswered for the Steelers, too. I don't want to say that the Browns are the only team that don't have answers yet. Like, the Steelers have a lot of players that we're expecting to be better that are young. I mean, Devin Bush is a rookie. Bill Belichick is probably going to make him look like an idiot in week one. Honestly, I don't want to say that. I want him to intercept Tom Brady, and I want him to run him over on the way back, like right over. I want him to feel all of those 42 years, all of them. But he probably won't. He's going to find Devin Bush. He's going to do some motion. He's going to figure out what he's thinking, and he's going to throw it to the other side of the field because he's smart.
He's going to take a little bit of that avocado out of his jersey and just go right back in. Tom Brady will be good to go.
All the mental gymnastics to explain why the Steelers are.
Yeah. Okay. All right, fine. Go ahead, Joey.
All right. Everybody ready for me to tell you why the Ravens are going to win the division again?
Mm-hmm.
Let's hear it, Cowboy.
All right. Last year, in the Ravens' division-winning season, they had the 23rd worst strength of schedule. That's up 11 spots. They got the 12th worst strength of schedule. 12th.
As in, like, easier or harder?
It's easier. It's 11 spots easier than last year. They were -3 in turnovers last year. That's likely to regress. And they were only 3-4 in one-score games. So those are pretty much coin flip games. Teams like the Panthers were like 2-7 in one-score games last year, and they just fell apart through the season. This year, the Ravens played the second easiest run defense schedule in the NFL. The second easiest. And they figure to run the ball more than anybody in the league, and potentially more efficiently than anybody. So I'll just hop on in here and get started before I start spouting off more information to inform you guys why the Ravens win. Week 1 at Miami, win, but it does make me a little nervous to go down to Miami when it's hot as shit outside.
Yeah, that's tough.
It'll be pretty soggy probably too, all things considered.
Soggy.
Which will actually benefit the Ravens, I think, if it becomes a runoff. It's hard to pass, but
yeah.
Week 2
Hurricane
at home,
joke.
home opener, Arizona, rookie quarterback. Wink Martindale is going to eat Kyler Murray alive. That's what the Ravens defense does against rookie quarterbacks. That's a win. At Kansas City, week 3, loss. Not much to say about that one. Kansas City's cream of the crop. At home against Cleveland, week 4, win. At Pittsburgh, loss. Come back home. Oh, by the way, the Ravens schedule is very balanced. It's away, home, away, home, away, home. There's no back-to-back home game. So home, Cincinnati, win. At Seattle, I went back and forth on this one a little bit. I have this as a loss for the Ravens. I think going across the country, Lamar in Seattle in that loud-ass stadium, Jadeveon Clowney is actually one of the best end pass rush specialists against the run. So Seattle really bolstered their run defense by adding Jadeveon Clowney. So I've got the Ravens losing at Seattle in that test game that we have Seattle for every team in the division. They've got a bye week the next week, and then they come off a bye to host the New England Patriots, whom they will beat in the big crab cake only because two things. They have two things in their favor. It's off the bye, like the Browns, but it's at home,
Mm-hmm.
and that's big.
So you mean that the
Also,
Patriots are going to let themselves lose to the Browns and then lose to the Ravens back to back?
well, no, they're not going to lose to the Browns, so it's all good. Also, so the Ravens have, in this dynasty era, been one of the most successful teams against the Patriots, other than like Miami at home. And one of the reasons for that was Ed Reed. Well, the Ravens have another all-time great safety now, since Ed Reed left, in Earl Thomas. So I think all those things combined, I think Brady and Belichick will respect Earl Thomas, and that'll kind of tip the scales in the Ravens. Also, next week at Cincinnati, win. Come back home versus Houston, win. At the Rams on Monday Night Football, I have that as a loss for the Ravens. Come back home to have the 49ers travel across the country. I have that as a win for the Ravens. Go to Buffalo, win. Short week back, Thursday Night Football against Sam Darnold in Baltimore, second-year quarterback. I have that as a win. The Ravens also historically pretty good against Le'Veon Bell. Then they go on the road to Cleveland. I have that as a loss and kind of a gut check for the team as they come down the home stretch. And that is why at home they'll beat Pittsburgh in Week 17 and finish the season 11-5 in sole possession of first place in the AFC North. That's it.
Justin, you are riding a big wave surfing of enthusiasm. Do you want to?
Well, let's see here.
I can do it.
So I'm not as optimistic about the Ravens offense. Let's just start there. So I have them losing to Houston, and even though the Texans just got rid of Jadeveon Clowney, and I hate to say got rid of because that was a pretty big transaction that they had. I just don't think that it's going to make that much of a difference as far as the Ravens offense goes. And I still think that
they just traded away the best run defending edge guy in the league.
Okay. You still haven't convinced me yet.
Running is what the Ravens do. I don't know if you've noticed.
Oh, yeah. So, I don't know. I'm just not optimistic. So I have them losing to Houston. And obviously I have them losing to the Patriots as well.
So you have them at 9-7-ish?
Mm-hmm.
I promised you guys ties, so I had the Ravens at 10-6. I'm not going to tear you down yet, Joey. Lamar, when he's overthrowing receivers and overthrowing Mark Andrews and overthrowing what's his face that they kept instead of Michael Floyd that's 6'5", he can throw it over his head too. But what I'm excited about the Ravens is their post-bye schedule. I told you guys I highlighted 4 games for each team, and I highlighted the 4 games that come after their bye consecutively.
Yeah.
And I said that each team would go 2-2 in those games.
Oh.
So I had them losing to Seattle and losing to the Texans. But I think how the Ravens perform in those games is going to basically determine the quality of their season. I think that Joey makes a good point. The Texans' recent maneuvers give me a little bit of pause about if they're going to be that AFC South leader by the time that game comes around now. But you know what? I made my picks like a week ago, and I can't keep track of Houston not having a GM. That's not what this podcast is called. It's the AFC Northcast. I think that they could beat the Pats, so I picked them to do it, but I don't think they'll be favored. I think it'll be a hard game. It always is, and they don't always win. They just win more than teams like mine.
Right.
So I have them going 10-6. I think they're a good team. I think Lamar Jackson has a ton to prove, and I will be talking about that on a weekly basis as the season breakers go right. I think the Ravens could win the division. They should compete for it.
I don't know. I don't know, man. We'll see.
The only other statistics that I have, um, in their last 12 games against first and second year quarterbacks, the Ravens are 8-4. They have 6 of those games this year. And then the Ravens regularly have the best special teams in the division. They might have the best special teams in conference, between Tucker and Sam Cook. Justin Bethel is a Pro Bowl special teamer. So
I'm not going to
special
throw
teams makes a
numbers
big
at you.
big difference, especially late in the season.
Numbers make me tired. It's late. You talked a lot about Ed Reed being a big reason the Ravens were good against the
Well,
Patriots.
you must have missed it because I compared one all-time great safety, Earl Thomas, and the way that he can affect a game against the way that Ed Reed affected games against the Patriots.
That's great because it's so wrong. Because Earl Thomas doesn't
That's
know
fine.
the defense, which is why he hasn't played yet. And the whole premise of the Ravens defense being good against the Pats is how sophisticated it is. So if you're expecting Earl Thomas to affect the game in the same way as guys like Ed Reed and Eric Weddle and CJ Mosley did, you better hope all your boys are hitting the books real hard, buddy, because you don't have the same defense anymore, and it might be more simple. And for every increment of simplicity that increases, Tom Brady throws another touchdown pass, and you cry a little.
Well, I think by week 9, working off of a bye week, Earl Thomas will be okay.
He's
Maybe.
got
He's
9
never-
weeks to
he
figure it
Never
out.
had to be
seems-
smart.
He seems like he's a pretty premier player.
Yeah, he's fast, but if Tom Brady looks somewhere and he runs fast the wrong direction, it doesn't matter. He hasn't proven to be smart yet. It's all over the interviews. He ran a very simple defense, and he
Yeah.
got to run wherever he wanted. So let's find out if he runs the right direction. We'll see. He could. I'm not saying he won't. I'm just saying he probably won't. No big deal.
So at this point, do we all just have our own teams winning the AFC North? Is that how boring we were?
No, I picked the Ravens and the Steelers to tie, and if your team can overcome your own logic and beat the Bengals in Week 17, we would all tie. And I'm
Right.
not a nerd, so I didn't look at the tiebreakers.
Right.
But
right,
that's
right.
fun for sure.
Yeah, that's kind of fun. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Obviously, I'm being optimistic. But I think if it happened, I don't think it would be. It's one of those things where like it would just be a case of living up to expectations, which, let's be honest, nobody ever lives up to expectations.
Yeah, and
But what's up?
I was just going to say, for the record, like your team went 7-8-1 last year. Your expectations should not be 12-4. 12-4 should be like, holy shit, this team is even better than I thought.
Right.
You
So
need to-
first off, I just said like 6 times that I'm being optimistic. Yeah, second off, I think there's significant enough changes to the team. Well, significant enough additions as well as some growth that's happened since the last season. The holes that were there last season are going to get filled up, or at least seem to have been filled up. So all improvements. And with a significantly easier schedule as well. I think it's pretty fair to say that last year's schedule was pretty tough, obviously for all of our teams, right? Not just for the Browns, but as a whole, I remember going into the season thinking that the entire AFC North had a tough schedule. And this season's schedule, not even by my own opinion, but just by factual, if you look at strength of schedule, the AFC North has a much easier schedule as well. What's up, Joey? I see that fucking look.
I'm actually not going to toot the Ravens horn anymore. I think of the 3 teams that hope to legitimately vie for the division title, so the Steelers, the Ravens, and the Bengals. Justin's not even paying attention. So
No,
it
I got
doesn't
you.
matter.
It's cool. I'm just not even, I don't respect that. So
Between our
didn't even
3
happen.
teams, I think the Steelers actually have the least glaring weakness or fatal flaw.
Right.
I think for the Ravens, potentially, obviously, Lamar. He has to develop some as a passer. He's allegedly had a pretty good summer. It's been a little iffy in what we've seen in game action in the preseason. And for the Browns, it's obviously the offensive line. I'm still a little bit shook about the Tampa Bay game in the preseason, and I know it's just preseason, and I know OBJ and Njoku and Jarvis and Nick Chubb, all of them didn't play. But Baker was running around like a man on fire back there, and he is not Russell Wilson.
Right.
Not yet. He doesn't have the experience yet.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think, as much as he loves Freddie Kitchen's system, they need to protect Baker. And if they can't protect Baker, and the teams that they're the Jets, the Rams, Seattle, Baltimore, in the beginning of that schedule for the bye, if they come out of that like 2-3 with some of the personalities that they have and all of the expectations that they have this year, it could get ugly fast.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I will make.
Well, I mean,
my
that's why. Sorry, real quick. That's why we have the to back up Baker Mayfield, the AAF champion quarterback, Gary Gilbert. He already knows what it's like to be a champion. So
the second best Browns quarterback since the relocation.
You're forgetting somebody. But go ahead, Chad. Sorry.
Tim Couch.
No.
My one line case for the Steelers to win these tiebreakers that I'm unwilling to calculate is that we have all agreed that the AFC North has 4 really great defensive lines.
Right.
And I'm looking at one host that has a great offensive line. So if there's a variable, and there could be many that come into play, the Steelers could have that division record advantage based on the performance of their offensive line. So I'm not saying the Steelers are going to win the division. I'm saying the Steelers are going to win the Super Bowl.
I will say that's pretty fair. I think the only I guess X factor at this point is the status of the receivers, being that the Steelers are such like a pass oriented team, and that's what they live on, thrive on, strive on for however many years at this point. I think that's the only X factor, but it's such a small X factor because I think we all believe in Juju. I think we all at least think that the receiving core, at least from my opinion from the preseason, is better than what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be kind of a shit show, but so we'll see. All right.
We all have a lot to be excited about.
Yep, for sure. For sure.
We should probably have a wager. We'll think about it.
A wager? Yeah, maybe we'll think of something. We'll come up with something for sure.
Like if the Browns win 11 or less games, you lose some sort of bet, maybe.
Yeah, like I just have to shave my head or something. I would hate to do that. Anyways,
or maybe it's the opposite. Maybe you have to do like a hair club
my
for men.
God. No.
Love it.
No. If I can quit my job for a couple months, then yeah. Or if they update like a hat policy or something. Anyways, you guys got anything else? We need to close this out. We said this was going to be a short episode, but
I've got one fun trivia. We're still under an hour, I think.
Yeah.
I've got one quick trivia that I cannot wait a week blast out because it's starting to make its way around the internet.
All right, let's go.
Chances are higher. So I heard this on the Levitard show early last week, and then I saw it today on Twitter from like a major sports account. So since 2010, 3 NFL teams have not played in the wild card round of the playoffs. And
2010.
The Browns played in the wild card. It was back in like 06, I want to say, like 05, 06. So the Browns are one of them.
Yep.
That's yeah. But anyways, the Browns. The wild card or just the playoffs period? Just the wild card, right?
The wild card.
Given the way that these types of riddles work, one of them has to be like a returning champion. So the Patriots or some shit. And then
that's the crazy one.
Yeah. And then who's the third one? Come on, Chad.
Well, I was holding on to the Patriots. That was my sweet.
I was gonna say. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's not an NFC South team because they keep swapping division champions.
Yeah.
So I'm tempted to say the Bucks, but I don't think it's them. So it's got to be a really bad team from a different division.
I'm gonna say NFC.
Is it
NFC North?
The Raiders. Raiders. I'm thinking Raiders. They've been pretty bad for a while.
Should have stuck with your gut, Chad.
Was it the Bucks?
It sure is the Bucks. The Browns, the Bucks, is wallowing in ineptitude, and then the Patriots because they've had a first round bye literally for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
I guess it's the Bucks won the division. No, they still could have played in the wild card round. So yeah, I'll stick with my logic, but I accept defeat.
All right. Well, that's our predictions for the season. I don't know. I'd like to go back over these at some point, and then maybe like halfway through the season, kind of re-evaluate our expectations, see kind of where we see our teams finishing out the schedule or the season. But that'll be obviously later on. I always think that's fun to kind of like look back and see like, well, where were we wrong? You know, what did we get completely fucking wrong, and what did Justin get completely fucking right? So we might review that next week, though. Not even next week. Holy shit! This is it. The regular season's here.
In 2 days.
Thursday night, where you have the Green Bay Packers against the Bears, the Chicago Bears. I know you'll all be watching that shit, but we will be talking AFC North football. We'll be talking Week 1. We're gonna have Dylan back on the show. If you remember him from last season when we did the AFC North cast, he was our resident Patriot insider. So he's gonna talk to us about the Patriots versus the Steelers. Because, you know, if there's anything we know about Week 1 of football, it's that it's always set in stone because we always know what the teams are going to be before anything starts. So that'll be fun. But we're going to give our review of Week 1 anyways, and that'll be it.
Tune in Thursday for me to give Dylan the verbal people's elbow before the Steelers give the Patriots the football people's elbow.
Boom. So since we're going to have Dylan on the show, we're going to go ahead and put up a poll on Facebook that's going to ask you, what do you guys think? Patriots, Steelers. I think that's kind of the premier matchup of Week 1 in my opinion. So see what you guys think about that. Pigskin Pick'em. The gap is closing on your ability to join Pigskin Pick'em. Now, you could be like someone like Dylan or Chad that joined kind of late in the season last season. That's completely fine. But we'd like to get you started in there as soon as possible. So we're going to have that in the description as well. The link to the Pigskin Pick'em. Join that. If you don't know what Pigskin Pick'em is, super simple. Every week you go through, you say, this team will win, this team will lose. Whoever has the most right, they win. Voila. And then we'll see who gets the most wins throughout the season. It's fun stuff. Check it out. In the meantime, though, don't forget Tuesdays and Thursdays at 9:30 Eastern. We're going to be doing our live streams on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, and of course the podcast will be coming out the next day, usually before noon, and you can listen to us anywhere you can get podcasts. But most importantly, tell your friends, tell your family, share it, tell us what you think so we can get better and give you guys what you want to hear, what you guys want to talk about, and I'm just excited for fucking football this season, so...
Remember, Damian Willis is number 15 now. Bengals fans.
Okay, 15. I'll go ahead and write that down. Boom. You got anything, Joey?
Oh, man.
All right.
Buckle in. The Lamar Jackson experience starts on Sunday.
All right. Sweet. All right. Take it easy, everybody.
Adios.